I'm here at Ngozi Talk Shows, Find Your Own Voice, Lead from Within. With me today is Rachel G. Rachel G, how are you? Is it afternoon in where you are?
Yeah, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon,
Okay, so we are
1 hour
one
ahead.
hour behind.
You are, yeah.
And so, Rachel G, you chose this topic, why you struggle to live your truth. And could you please explain to our audience why you chose the topic and
Yeah.
how it can benefit them?
Well, I chose the topic because it's a subject that's actually spoken about quite a lot these days. And for many of us, talking about it, like speaking our truth, is actually easier than doing it. And I think it's important that we learn to speak up and to speak our truth, as this really is just an essential aspect of living a life of authenticity, of fulfillment, passion, and joy. And so, as I always say, we live with ourselves 24/7, and it's really vital that we honor our own feelings. Personal truth is about how we feel, and that is very different to our opinions. Our opinions come, let's say, with some more righteous judgments and a little bit of arrogance thrown in there, and that, we think that we're right and the other is wrong. Whereas our personal truth is something that lies much deeper. Um, Truth doesn't need to be right. Truth is honoring how we feel and what is real for us, and it's about expressing what we think, we feel, what we think and what we feel, and doing that with a level of authenticity and vulnerability. I'm not saying that none of us are entitled to our opinions. Of course, we're all entitled to our own opinions. But to give an example, I might have an opinion that my ex-partner is being unkind and unhurtful with his remarks, or gaslighting. And my truth is, I'm not accepting to be spoken to in a derogatory way. I will accept to be talked respectfully, and then I will listen. And so, I don't want to fight about being right about my opinion on whether his attitude is this or is that. Um, but what I am doing when I'm speaking my truth is that I am actually then taking responsibility for my own personal experience. And so, yeah, speaking our deeper truth is something that really does liberate us. And in some cases, it can really help us to bond closer in relationships, whereas maybe in others, it will actually help us to let them go. So that's why I chose this subject.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rachel. I also agree with you when you say our opinion, it doesn't mean that whatever the opinion we have about our lives or about other people, it does not mean that we are right. And that's why sometimes the people find it difficult to actually speak their own truth. It's like my daughter has been having problems with the school, and the teacher punished her for 4 weeks not getting a school book because she's not able to go and request the book physically. And she's 7 years old. So yesterday, when I was writing an email, I said to them, I'm not there to actually guide her through as a mother. Could you please, I don't know the school guidelines and the rules that have been put in place, but I'm sure that the rules that have been put in place, they have nothing to do with punishment. And so I said on the email, could you please make sure that you follow the guidelines for the school and principles that have been placed? And those guidelines, it means that when a child, the teachers speak for children, and you have to actually train a child first. And then when you train them, and then you expect them to actually take action to what you have trained them, but at the same time communicate with the parents. So I was like, I don't know what is the truth at this moment, because I feel that my child is being tortured, but you guys know the truth. What the school is expected from children. And I was like, for me, I believe that you as school, when I'm dropping my daughter, you are parents that moment when I'm not there. So let me know when it's my daughter is not actually needs a reminding or something, so I can actually remind her, and at the same time remind her as well in that, because what is happening is I see the punishment, but what do you do with the punishment? If I wasn't like a parent who is aware and helping my daughter to read every day by providing the books at home, that means she'll be behind at school because of that punishment. For 4 weeks is a long time. And so I said to them, you just need to look at the situation and look at the school guidelines and follow the school guidelines. If the school guidelines says a punishment, then I'll need to find out how I can help my daughter, because that means that she's in the wrong place. So I just left it like that. It doesn't mean that. And when I was writing that email, I wasn't writing in a place where I wanted to prove a point or I wanted to make them wrong. I just wanted them to do the right thing for my daughter, and also to do the right thing for me. Because if you're punishing my daughter and I haven't got a clue, and I'm speaking to her, she goes, but mommy, I forget. How I forget to remind her to give me the school book. And I was like, she's being honest. She says, mommy, I forget. And you can imagine when the children are happy with their friends, they're not going to remember to remind somebody. The book is the last thing they remember. They'll remember it after they left to school. So I was like writing that email. And it's like when you're in a relationship as well, what you just mentioned, that when you do something, you don't do things to prove a point, living your own truth and knowing that you have to actually be transparent, but not coming in a place of blame, because everything is a game. It's like we are here at Ngozi Talk Show, life is a game. So I do something, like you do something, somebody else do something. It's just, we just have to come together as one, have that understanding, and coming in a place of authenticity as well. And that does help. If someone is really, really struggling, living their own truth, first you have to find your authenticity and live by that. And also knowing that when things go wrong or whatever the life you are living, never make it wrong and make it right, or trying to prove a point. I've seen people trying to prove a point. It's like, you don't need to prove a point.
Yeah. It's kind of more from a defensive stance.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why it's so hard for us to speak up is because it tends to actually tap into that emotional baggage that we're all carrying from the past. Certainly in the beginning when we're trying to speak our truth. Just as you've mentioned with your daughter, we've learned as children to actually compromise our own needs constantly. We learn to shut down and to be silent so that we don't kind of upset the apple cart, be that our parents, our teachers, whoever who is in authority. And by doing that, we don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but we tend to just keep hurting ourselves instead. And this whole way of doing it as a child, and then we get into our adolescence, and then we get into our young, early 20s, and we just take this way that we've learned as like a conditioning that we just play out, and it can work out half the time, but the other half we just end up really just feeling resentful or feeling unheard, isolated, sometimes even powerless. And so, like I said, all we end up doing is actually hurting ourselves. But we do have a choice, and that is either that we're going to step into our power and we're going to become uncomfortable actually in the present moment by speaking our truth, or we can choose to be more in a powerless state, which will leave you eventually feeling uncomfortable anyway, because you'll be more than likely annoyed or angry, even bitter, about the fact that you didn't speak up. And and eventually, when you keep doing that over and over again,
Oh, sorry.
We get no problem. We get emotionally, eventually we'll just get emotionally exhausted. And so, yeah, for a large majority of us, I think that, there comes this point in time in our lives when we make the decision that it's no longer safe, like, to speak our truth. Um, because speaking up as the child, we may have, like, that could have led us to being told off by our parents, and for some that can be, extreme cases of being, abused. And so, when you're repeatedly experiencing such an outcome, each and every time you do try to voice yourself as a child, then you're going to start to believe that, well, speaking up just creates an unpleasant and painful experience, and so I'm better off not to do it. And it just compels us to just withhold and to question our own voice, from there on in. And so that's why we struggle. So I just want to emphasize that that's where it's coming from. That's why we struggle to actually speak our own truth. I mean, I was brought up certainly by hearing quite often, children are to be seen and not heard. And so, what is that teaching us? That's teaching us to keep parts of ourselves invisible, to be fearful of our own voice. And I don't think that our parents, they didn't intentionally set out to withdraw our voice. They've invited us to withdraw our voice because they were taught also by their parents to withdraw their voice. And so we, as children, we watch and we observe, and we begin to just mimic what our parents, inherently, and unconsciously, in most cases, I think, what their fears, their beliefs, and their attitudes, and it's just passed down from generation to generation. So, we give our power as children to our parents. We withdraw our voice because they have control, and we just follow their lead. And that happens also, like in school, with teachers. But as the adult, now that you've grown up, and you're more mature, you have a lot more self-awareness, then, that problem that we encounter is now more to do with allowing others to now disrespect us, in our time, in our energy, in our needs, because what we're saying is, well, I don't feel safe, and I've not been able to respect my own needs. I've only ever respected other people's needs. But we can change that. Just we need to think about it. We need to think about what's going on within ourselves and why we're doing what we're doing, and does that really feel in line with who we are within us, and start making a change from that awareness. Yeah.
I love it when you say children are to be not to be heard, to be seen and not to be heard, and that's why some of the habit that we carry and they come from, and even in my culture as well, it is the same thing. Children don't talk back to their parents, and that affects people when they're older. That can affect you when you're older. It can affect you, your personality can affect your life as well, because that's what or even speaking your own truth. It can actually, you can build a wall, like a wall of protection, because you don't want to, like, there's some people who don't like confrontation. When they see the truth, they know the truth, and somebody comes or they wrong them, they wouldn't say anything because they don't like confrontation. They're like, I don't want confrontation. I prefer to put up with this character than speaking my own truth. And sometimes it's because of how we are raised. For me, how I was raised, my parents raised me to actually speak up, speak my own truth. Like my dad and my mom, they'll be like, my mom will be like talking to me, like she'll go out with me and she will be like pointing, you see this guy, this man, these type of guys. I'm not judging them, but they're the guys that they spend time outside. They don't have jobs, they don't have this, and those are the kind of men. And if you decide to hang out with them or to date them, that's what you're going to be. So you have to make up your own choices without judging people. And then it will be like my dad, and I'll have my stepdad, and they'll be like explaining to me about life. This is what life is about. And but then when I got older, you start following the crowd, and you don't want to, you live your life. You don't want to speak your own truth, and then you try to fit in with the crowd. You behave the same way your friends, they behave. So that's what I did. But then when I realized, actually, I was 28 when I realized what happened to me? I don't live like this. And I was getting really, really frustrated about it, because you're not happy. If you don't speak your own truth, and you know your personality within, and you know who you are, and that can bring struggles within. So that's why I really, really struggled. And sometimes the people, you can feel shame, and that shame is because of the truth. You don't want to speak your own truth. It's like when my relationship fell apart now with my mom's family. They loved my ex, and I'm like, I can't speak my own truth, to tell them that we are actually splitting up. There was shame, and I had to hold on to that truth until I realized, actually, I'm going to have to tell my family, and however they're going to feel is fine. If they get upset, it is fine. I'm going to have to deal with this properly. It was like, how is there? When I call it, they'll ask, how is he? And I'll be like, everything is fine. But everything wasn't fine. And going through challenges, and I was working through that shame until I realized, actually, I don't have to feel ashamed. I actually took Paul McKenna's programs, and the first thing that it was on the thing, it was dealing with the life first. If you want to go further in life with this program, we have to deal with the telling porcupines. And I was like, I'm telling porcupines to my family when they are ringing me saying, how is Nick? I'm like, he's okay, we are okay, but we are not okay. So I had to deal with those porcupines, the small things that in life we don't want to face. So I had to face my own truth. And facing my own truth, it means I have to look at me, the things that I feel ashamed of, and which I was struggling with. I was struggling to communicate my own truth. And there's some things like guilty, you feel guilty with the other things. When you want to speak to the truth, you're like, if I upset this person, you feel guilty about it. And that guilt, that shame, it will hold you back from being transparent. And that's what was happening with my life. And at the end of the day, you end up being miserable. And for me, because I don't know how to be miserable, and I was like, I can't live like this. I have to be honest with myself. So I took Paul McKenna's programs, Mending My Broken Heart. And I mend my broken heart by being honest with myself, instead of blaming someone. When regarding my life, I had to actually go back and meet that inner child that I had neglected. And when I met that inner child, and I found that child was already, that Nomsa that I've been looking for was always there. And I remember when I looked in front of the mirror, there was this, I could feel that I was being separated from something, when the pain, when you're being separated from pain and finding the breakthrough, it was dark. And I felt like it was so painful in a way, but the freedom that I felt at that time, it was so beautiful. But it took me a very, very long time to actually work on it. I actually took Paul McKenna's programs and Mending My Broken Heart, the truth, facing the truth each and every day, because there was a struggle for me to be honest with myself and speaking my own truth. So I had to face that, and I had to go back and look at my parents' lifestyle as well and be honest about it, because I was using that to comfort myself. Like my mother divorced and my parents divorced, and I was using that to say, I didn't like my parents divorced, and that's the reason why my relationship are not working. But then when I went back and I was like, I don't even remember anything about the divorce. I was 8 months when they divorced. My head, and I was like, why is my head dragging me to the things that I don't even know about? Honestly, my parents divorced when I was 8 months. I don't even know what happened. All I know, I was told the story, but I was close to my mom and close to my dad and close to my step parents. But what the story, the truth, the lies that I created in my head, honestly, I have no idea. That's when I realized actually things are making things up in my head. So I had to deal with that, but it was a struggle. And that struggle, it comes with forgiveness. So I don't know if actually you have ever gone through that when you make things up in your head, and when you go back, actually you're dealing with it and you're like, why am I thinking that way? So that was my story, where I was like, I don't even remember my mother's divorce and my father's divorce, and why am I using it to say my parents? I think when you have questions, that those questions, if they're not unanswered in your head, you have to be honest. For me, I realized it was I needed questions to answer for my mom and my dad to tell me why, explain to me why they divorced. Once they explained, my mom was like, no, sir, your dad wanted a woman, a housewife, but I was never going to be a housewife. He was educated, and I left school pregnant with the older sister. I needed to go back to school. So he didn't want me to go back. So we had a misunderstanding. So I had to go back to school. And him, it means that he looks after you children. His mom, your grandmother looked after you. And that means I go back, and when I'm finished, and he didn't want me to go to work. So I wanted to go to work and be a woman that provides as well, because that's what I wanted to be. And I was like, when she explained, that's when I realized in my head that there was truth that I needed to find out, that breakthrough, but because I was making things up in my head. And that's why I lived the life that I lived. And when things get serious with a man, I don't know if you have gone through that. Things get serious. I went to the phase where things get serious and men start telling me off, where men start like they want to communicate with me, or I'm like, I don't live that life of being told off. You have to explain to me things. But I didn't realize that I was labeling, judging as well at the same time, coming in a place of judgmental that, you know what? Growing up as a child, my parents used to sit down with me, explain, and you are coming in a place of like, hush, hush, I'm out. So I would be like, I'm out with the relationship, but I broke, that thing is broken now. I'm living a normal life.
It's good that you've had that awareness, and that you know what is true for you and you can act upon it. Because there are real damaging effects for not speaking our truth. I mean, we withdraw our voice for a purpose, and most of us do it because we think it's protecting us from getting hurt. Um, but when we try to protect ourselves from being hurt, actually, it causes more harm than actually if we just spoke our truth. Because by not speaking up, by not speaking our truth, it will eventually just start to manifest itself in other ways. Like, you start feeling unsafe to share your feelings, or you start to have a fear actually of conflict. So you do your best to avoid it. You can become like the dumpster, that everyone just throws everything on you end up taking everything on for everybody else, even if you don't want to. because then you have the problem of not being able to say no without actually feeling guilty, like you were mentioning. And so you say yes instead. Saying no for some reason has become this idea that you're letting others down if you put yourself first. And I just want to say that is just total crap, by the way, you know. And by not being able to say no, then it causes us actually to be more accommodating and more accepting of things that actually are not healthy for us. And we then devalue our ideas, our opinions, and we start to question our worth. And like you were mentioning about what goes on in your head, you know, we have this relentless inner critic that is judging us continuously, telling us, you got to be cautious, you better question what you're doing here, you know, make sure that you actually just keep playing it small. That's what our inner critic wants us to do, because it believes it's keeping us safe that way. And that maybe you've met people who are always apologizing for things when it's not even necessary, you know. And so we have to be careful that what are we exchanging by saying that, well, I'm not going to speak up, because what you're going to get in return is far worse, I think, than having a moment where, you know, you need to just dip into your courage and share exactly how you're feeling, and how the other person responds is actually none of, you know, it's not your responsibility. That they've got to take responsibility for themselves. But yeah, sadly, what do? We just continue to hurt ourselves in order to not get hurt by someone else. Just, you know, I think about how many times I would basically disapprove my inner truth just so that I could get approval from somebody else, or I would try to please, because I'm a recovering people pleaser, trying to continually please another so that I could actually fit in, that I would be accepted. And it's just these little small acts that really is where we're learning to not actually love ourselves, because we just want to get love rather than give the love to ourselves. And so, yeah, I think you can see it today in society, in the world that we live in, that it's full of people who are really, truly afraid of their own voice. Why? Because it's their power. We've pushed away our right to stand out, to shine, to be our authentic self, in exchange for an inner prison, which is controlled by our inner critic. And it's all because we're afraid of our own power, our own voice, our own shining light.
Like it when you say, Rachel, we live in a society where people are afraid to speak their own truth. And that's why Ngozi Talk Shows is to help people find their own voice, lead from within. And also, it's like when you were mentioning the people pleaser, like we go around and pleasing people. We don't want to say no. We don't want to say no. The answer is always yes. I used to be like that, but then I realized that if I keep saying yes, 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 and sometimes there are times where you can't do something. And also I had to understand that if someone says, I can't do this for you, it does not mean that that person doesn't care about me. They care about me, but it just mean that at that moment in time where I need help, they can't be there for me because they are there with someone else, or they are there for themselves. So I had to actually realize, and when you're actually being honest with yourself and speaking that truth, it is a struggle, because you can feel that selfishness. You can feel that, no, actually I am being selfish, but you are not being selfish. And also I've learned the hard way, like if I want to ask for help, before I would never ask for anyone's help, like asking you to help me, no, I wouldn't do that. I would actually prefer to struggle than to actually that pride of saying, Rachel, could you please help me? Or saying somebody else, could you please help me? I wouldn't do that. And also I've learned that even though I have the courage to seek help, at the same time, that help that I'm seeking, that person, they might not be there for me. So I need to understand that, and I know they care, but they're not there at that moment. And also, and pleasing people, we do things to please people, and at the same time, we leave ourselves broken. Because if you can't do something, you have to be honest. And also, it's like helping people. I have friends myself and my family. If I want to do something, I ask them, oh yeah, they are there. Within a second, they want to help me. They never, never, ever say no to anything I ask. And sometimes I even test them. But then when it's their turn for me to help, oh my God, they don't want me to help. They will find ways to explain why it's so important for them to be there. It's like I have a friend, my daughter loves to spend time with her daughter, so I like to pick them up and spending time, and she works. And sometimes she'll be like, oh, Noms, I feel like I am not doing the work that I should be doing. I'm like, would you give me a break? Just be normal. And if I ask you right now and say, even if I'm not doing anything, and take my daughter, or she will not say no. She will just say it just like that. She's just there. So I used to be like that. But then, and I recognize it when somebody's doing it, I'm like, I used to do this. And it is very, very important to actually, if you are someone who is struggling, to speak your own truth. And if you have a family or friends, sometimes it could be fear, and sometimes it could be something that happened back in your childhood. So it's very, very important for that person to deal with whatever is going on. And when you speak your own truth within, it can always lead to happiness and freedom. But then when you don't speak your own truth, it can lead to pain. It can lead to actually feeling that everyone else is taking advantage of you, but actually, while you're the one that is letting it happen. And so it's those are the things that you have to, as a person, if you want to live a healthy and a loving relationship with people around you, and also in the society, not actually following everybody else, what the society is doing, finding your own personality as well, and your own destiny, realizing your own destiny is very, very important, because we end up copying everybody else and living their lives and not living our own lives. So it's very, very important as well not to copy what everyone is doing in the society. And it's like we go to church. When I go to church, I don't have to behave like everybody else. I read the Bible. And when I read the Bible, I actually follow the principles on the Bible. When someone is actually preaching, I have to evaluate the information that they are giving me. I don't have to behave like God or Jesus. God wants me to come as I am, with my own truth, with my own guilt, with my own shame. And he does not want me to be somebody else. So it is important to anyone that is watching Ghost Talk shows and for them to realize that speaking your own truth and living your own truth. And when you speak your own truth, you might hurt other people in the process, because there might be people that know you. And when you start living your own truth, they're like, I don't know who this person is. It's like I grew up with my dad. And when I went to my mom to visit, my mom lived in a different town. My dad lived in a different town. So when I go there, People didn't know with my stepdad that it wasn't my stepdad. They thought maybe I went to school somewhere else and then I come back. And when I came to the UK, and now people start seeing my character, who Nomsa is on my mother's side. And they're like, but we don't know you. We don't know this Nomsa. I'm like, you've never asked the things that I can do. So everything that I'm doing now, I've learned. It's like being on stage. I learned it with my granddad at home. So I'm like, you've never asked me. So for me, when I meet someone, I don't really talk about myself. I ask questions about who you are as a person. I can only talk about me if I've been asked to talk about me. That's when I give out the information. So it is very, very important to know who you are as a person and find your own voice and be your own leader. Like that's what we do at Ngozi Talk Shows. If someone is struggling, Rachel, that's your field, is it? That's what you do, helping people find speak their own truth, and it's more like personal development. That's what you do for work. Self-love. Those who need themselves, go to Rachel. Rachel, do you want to explain to the audience, if they are watching this video later, why they need to get in touch with you so they can connect, and what you do as well?
Well, I'm a coach, teacher, even guide, mentor, and I help my clients, so we say, during times of transition, to really let go of an outdated version of themselves, and to really encourage the unfoldment of their true self, and so that they do find their own voice. And I help them to create this, let's call it an unshakable faith, that has them no longer really second doubting themselves all the time, so that when future challenges in their life shall happen, they're going to be more resilient and stronger, and being able in themselves to be able to really take on whatever comes their way, because they are more strongly rooted and grounded in the love for themselves. And when you have a love for yourself, you can weather any storm. And it has all come from the fact that, I myself have been on my own personal transformation journey from self-rejection to self-acceptance. And I was really called on a soul level to take this further and to go out there and inspire and empower others, especially women worldwide, to really experience this, living a life that is authentic. It's coming from the heart. It's where you choose a life of love and healing, compassion. And when I can help to activate other people's innate power that is within them, so that they too can manifest a life more of abundance and joyful living, then yeah, that feels good for me. So people can find me on Facebook, Instagram at Rachel G Healing. You can also visit my website, which is rachel-g.com. And there you can find information and book with me, either a 30-minute free call to get to know me, or I even have currently a free 1 hour sort of where we look at overcoming a limiting belief, or at least identify it so that you can go and work on it. And that's a free 1 hour session, and that you can find in my link tree in Instagram or Facebook. So, whilst Nomsa has disappeared for a moment, let me just share with you what I think is important, to actually help to deepen your capacity to speak your truth. And firstly, what Nomsa was saying is, we really need to stop managing other people's feelings, because trying to manage other people's emotions is actually a way in which we stop ourselves from speaking our truth. So just remember, you are responsible for your stuff, and everyone else is responsible for theirs. So it's about being real and not being right. So learning to let go of your attachment to an outcome of a conversation, and to what you think the other person is thinking, and that need to be right, will just allow yourself to become more real. The problem with wanting to be right is it really just closes the door on those deepest places within our hearts, which is where, our real truth comes from. And as with most things in life, it does take practice. So have some empathy and some compassion with yourself as you practice it. Sometimes you mess it up. Sometimes you will say things that will upset others, as Noms has said. And, people might get offended or get defensive. But just know that that's okay, because that's their stuff. That's stuff that needs for them to look at within themselves, why they're reacting and behaving in that way, and why they are taking such a personal insult to what it is that you're saying. And just remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being yourself and speaking authentically. And I think another important aspect is to listen to what your body is telling you, because pain and discomfort, be that through overwhelm, stress, resentment, anger, these are your signals that you are living life out of integrity. Stress or overwhelm, they are saying to you, or most likely you're saying no to someone that is asking you of something. Or no, sorry, your body is saying no whilst you're saying yes. And so, anger is often that sign that is telling you that you're not listening to your intuition. It's your body's response to denying your truth. Your body knows your truth. Your body doesn't lie to you. So don't judge it as it's right or wrong. Your response, how your body is behaving to something, just simply see it as information that is intended to actually serve you and your health, your well-being. It has your interest at heart, literally. So, and I know that speaking your truth can be scary. It can be challenging, especially when our bodies, react. I know there have been incidences with me where my heart has started to race. My voice has got a little bit shaky. My hands feel like, and my body feels like it's just shaking away, and everyone can see it. But that's the time when you need to start taking a deep breath. You need to dig down into your courage that we all have within us, and just be willing to speak your truth, and just go for it. And the difference that you will start to see, with yourself, the relationship that you have with yourself and with your life will really start to transform for the better. So, yeah. Do you want me to continue, Noms?
Yes, I'm back. There's a guy that is doing this thing with the leaves outside. I'm like, do you have to do it now? He's like, yeah. And I was like, I don't think so. Can you go to the back? So he's gone to the back. Now he's going to do the back.
Okay. Well, I can't hear anything, so you're okay.
Yeah, now because I've moved him, so that's why I left here to actually speak to him through the window to say, not here, not now. So it was like, but I have to do it. I was like, because it's a big building. So I was like, can you go to the other side? And then in 20 minutes, I'll be finished. And then you can come and finish the car park outside because it's so noisy.
Okay.
So, but if it was before, like 10 years ago, I would be like mourning and saying, you know what, Rachel, let's cut the talk show. I don't want to confront this guy, but he didn't have any problem with it. He just said, okay, I'll just go the other side and then I'll come back when you finish. And I like it when he said, sometimes people, they doubt themselves. And that's why people get scared. And also speaking your own truth, it can be really, really scary. It can be. But once you get used to it, as long as you're not coming in a cocky, judgmental way, when you do personal development, it's a journey. It's a journey where you connect with your inner self. And once you connect with your inner self, whatever you do in life, you're not coming in a judgmental place. There are some people who are doing personal development, but they still have not found that breakthrough of speaking out of judgmental. So when you do personal development, it's like it's a journey that you learn self-love, and speaking your own truth and breaking away from that fear. It means, even if it means that somebody is gonna maybe not like you, you're just gonna have to say, listen, this is what it is. This is what it is, and this is what I'm doing, or this is what, and knowing that my truth that I'm saying, it doesn't mean it's the truth, but this is my opinion that I'm doing. Like, it's like you come to an honest place. And even also when things within yourself as well, within your life, you become honest, you speak your own truth. It's like myself, when I'm doing something, if things are working fine, they are working fine. Or if I'm supposed to go to Dubai in 16th of December, 16, 17, and the 18th for the conference. And I have had to say, listen, I'm gonna have to actually, I'm not sure, because they were pressuring me to say, you need to tell us if you are coming or not, so we can do the marketing and stuff. And I said to them, listen, based on my work, how things are, like when you do things, everything is start falling apart. So I'm like, I'm in that process where when I do something and trying to fix something, things are falling apart. But I can't say I'm not coming. All I can say is, let me sort what I need to sort it out, and then I will come to Dubai if everything is fine, and I trust that things will be okay. But before, I wouldn't be honest, I would just put other people's needs. But now I'm like, I need to put my needs first. And as there's someone who's professional, I would turn up, because if I'm professional, then if I'm needed, then I'll be there. So I'm like, just let me sort this out. I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, but I'm taking responsibilities that I need to sort this life out, my business, and make sure that I'm living with someone that is going to be in the right hands with someone. But at the moment, things are like falling apart. I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that. And Carol Ann is like, Carol Ann on Friday, she was trying to fix the bio and she couldn't do it. And she says she had to actually tell herself that she can do this. So she says she kept trying and trying until she did it. And then she sent it to you to do the finished products. It's like, I'm like, you're talking to me right now. I'm like, Carol, and you're talking to me in my head. I'm like, I just received the message from the guy. He's saying, I need to send him the logo. And I was like, the logo that I want, I've seen it, but I'm not a logo designer. So Carol had actually made me by speaking here at Ngozi Talk Show. She actually influenced me to go and actually sit there and until I get the logo right. And I send it to you to finish it off. And I was like, when it came back, actually, and I was like, she was right, actually. We can do this if you put your mind to it, as long as you have someone that is willing to actually help you there. Because she was like, she was trying the bio and she wanted to give up, and she was like, no. And then she started saying on the video that you can do it if you want to do something. You can do it as long as you just take your breathing, do your breathing exercises, and just focus. You can get to the results. And this guy, when I read the email, I was like, he wants a logo. He wants it now. Who is going to design a logo for me right now? So I'm sitting there Saturday night, and I was like, Friday night, I was like, let me just do it. If I fail, I failed. It's fine. So I just kept going and kept going. And I was like, okay, I'm in this place where it looks good. I'm not going to do no more. I'm sending it to Rachel. She's not going to say no to these little things. She's just going to do the finished touch. And that's why I ended up with you. But when it came back, I was so proud of us, both of us, that actually between us, we managed to do it. But if the guy agrees, it goes on the website, then I'm just going to be more proud again. That actually I'm speaking my own truth within myself and seeking help knowing that actually I can do this and I can have someone else actually helping me to do this. And if you were to come and say, Nomsa, listen, I'm very, very busy, I don't think I can do it now, I know I would have asked someone else to do it. And I would have, if it was before, hearing no, I don't know whether you struggled this before you go into personal development. Hearing no is very tough. When you hear someone saying no, I don't know if anyone ever felt how I used to feel when someone says no. No means it's a defeat. It used to be a defeat to me. It's like I'm defeated. It's like when someone is saying no, it's like it's the end of everything. How can she?
I just felt rejected. I would feel rejected, not defeated, just rejected, because that was my thing, you know.
Yeah, I used to feel that this is your work. If someone feels like that, how we used to feel rejected by just hearing no, what advice can you give them, Rachel?
What, when someone says no, not to feel rejected?
No, if someone is receiving a no and they are feeling actually rejected, if that is how they feel when they receive no. So what advice can you give them to actually see no as not as a negative thing, but as a positive thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's that expression, isn't there, that a rejection is God's way of redirecting you somewhere else, you know. But in general, I mean, you know, it is about having that self-awareness and understanding that when somebody says no, then instead of taking it and personalizing it, it's put yourself in their shoes and think, well, you know, respect to them for you know, looking after their own personal boundaries, because maybe they've got, you know, other things on that. Think of the fact that they've got lots of maybe different reasons as to why they're saying no that actually has nothing to do with you as an individual. And you have to remind yourself of that this is not for me to take personally. When someone says no, they're respecting themselves, and that's it. Let's not make it more complicated than it is. And if you feel hurt on some level, then that is an indication that there is that something has been triggered within you that is asking to be looked at, to be seen, and to be heard, and to be felt by yourself, which is a limiting belief or a story that you have, that you're holding within you, that you've made it something about rejection is about, you know, says something about your worth, your value, and that's what you need to be looking at. And so you can thank the other person, not literally, but, you know, within yourself, like, oh, I'm really glad that this person said no to me, because it's highlighting something within me that I need to look at. So yeah, it's taking responsibility then for what you're feeling, rather than projecting it and blaming it on the other person for whatever reasons you might, you know, like to conjure up just to deflect from what it is that's going on within you. So that would be my advice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is very, very important as well to actually define your main values as a person. Like when you say this is how I feel, and look at your values, because like what you're saying, Rachel, that person, they're actually respecting themselves and they're respecting their values and their beliefs. And it is important for when you're doing something to be clear on what is important in your life, but not coming in a selfish way. There are some people who are selfish, but when you come in a place of, I know who I am, and coming in a loving place that, yes, I can be there as a friend, or Noms, I can be there. I always ask you to say, Rachel, can you look at this? Can you look at this? And having that courage to say, Nomsa, I will do it, but not at the moment because I'm busy. For me, I find it helps you to build a long-term relationship with someone, Because when you are able to communicate your want and communicate your no and communicate your yes, it gives you freedom with that person. You want to hang out with them because you know they understand. When you're busy, you're busy. When you want to be there, they know you are there. And it helps you to build that long-term healthy relationship with them. And it also gives you freedom. But there are some relationship with that. You see people, they are in a relationship and that relationship is causing them pain. So if you are in that relationship, you have to evaluate your values, define your values, and then get out in that relationship. Also, I'm not saying you can just go around and judging people and say, this one, Nomsa said I should get out of a relationship. There are some people, when you're around them, they take you places. Imagination when they speak. It's like they're speaking to you, they're speaking to your problems. You are able to connect, you are able to, you can't wait to hang out with them. And when they are not there, they are not there. They let you know that I'll be there on that day. And when they are there, they are there. They make you happy. So those are the people that you should be around them. When it comes to even relationship, you shouldn't be in a relationship where it's causing pain. I have friends, I have people that I speak to, they're in a relationship that is causing them pain. So I'm like, why do we call it a relationship? Why can't we just call it pain? And I know it sounds very easy when I'm saying it, but if you are not in a happy relationship with either business tribe or family or intimacy, you just have to define your values, your principles. Relationship doesn't have rules. It has principles. When you have rules, it means my way or else. That's where people put rules. But a relationship that has principles, it means we understand. It's like Rachel at Nkosi talk shows, these guys, they're there. But when they're not there, I have to understand that they're not there. So, but when that relationship, it feels like you don't do this, if I'm making them feel like that, that means it's no longer love. Relationship has to come from a loving place. So if you are in a relationship where you're struggling to find your voice, your own voice, you are struggling to lead from within, get in touch with the Nkosi talk shows. You can get in touch with Rachel on her social media, or you can get in touch with me on my social media, or you can go to the website and get in touch with me. And once you get in touch with me, it's www.hseia.com. I'm just putting it here. So you have the website. You can get in touch with me on that website to send me an email and just let me know if you want to connect with the coaches. I'll connect you with them straight away. And you can find your own voice and lead from within. And also, if you're watching later, head over to Nkosi Talk Show's page, and you have options there to comment with stars by giving stars. And when you give us a star, it means we get to reach more people in our community. So live with grace, everyone, and God bless. Rachel, do you have any words of encouragement you would like to leave with our audience?
When you choose to authentically and courageously speak up, you're loving yourself. And when you are showing yourself that you do have the right to be heard, to be valued, and to be respected, and being seen and heard is basically your inherent birthright. We weren't designed, right, to live with the constraints of our mental prison. We're actually here to feel free, to be expressive, and to tap into that inner child, where that is where our free spirit part of us is held, and it still lives within all of us, and it's never left. So just speaking your truth is not always going to be easy, but it's going to be certainly worth it in the end.
Thank you, everyone. God bless.